Tonight will be President Trump's first address to the nation since he became president, really, since the inauguration. When asked about any troop increase over the weekend, here's what Defense Secretary Mattis had to say.
I was not willing to make significant troop lifts until we made certain we knew what was the strategy, what was the commitment going in.
Differently,
well, once he announces what the strategy is, we can get more precise on Afghanistan troop levels.
Now, to understand the choices that the president faces, let's get a historical perspective of Afghanistan. Let's break it into 5 distinct eras, starting with pre-1979. The British fought 3 wars there in the early 19th and 20th century, and they achieved limited success. Now, there were many, many wars going back a couple thousand years in Afghanistan. But at the start of the second era, in 1979 to 1989, the Soviets invaded. It was the height of the Cold War. The CIA armed and funded a group of jihadi warriors called the Mujahideen. Then the slow breakup of the Soviet Union forced the Soviets to get out in 1989. Now, from 1989 to 2001, mostly thanks to the USSR and the USA, Afghanistan was basically a wreck. A civil war handed control to the Taliban, and the country's strife forced this country to its knees. And then September 11th happened. Congress authorized military force, and for more than a decade, the U.S. struggled to succeed, including in 2010, the surge, another 33,000 soldiers and Marines, bringing it to almost 100,000 fighters in Afghanistan. In 2014, President Obama unveiled his troop withdrawal strategy, called for about 5,600 troops by 2015 and an exit for combat forces by the end of 2016. But there are currently 8,400 U.S. troops stationed there, alongside several thousand international forces. 2,388 U.S. service members have been killed in Afghanistan since 2001. And as for civilian casualties, just the first half of this year have seen 5,243. Okay, as promised, still with me are Mehdi Hasan and retired General McCaffrey. Mehdi, let me start with you. Very strangely, you have found yourself in agreement with what we know historically Donald Trump has been saying about Afghanistan, that we shouldn't have gone in and we shouldn't be there.
Yeah, as you say, Ali, when he wasn't president, he used to say Afghanistan is a mess, it's a waste of time, it was a mistake, we should bring the troops home, we need to get out. And I hate to agree with Donald Trump, but I think he was right then. And ever since he's entered the White House, he's now the 3rd president in a row who has to deal with Afghanistan and the problem of the Taliban. And, you know, he's a guy who likes to win, Ali. He hates to lose, we know that. And every month, every week, his generals are showing him maps showing the Taliban controls more and more territory in Afghanistan. And he rightly thinks that America is not just not winning, to quote Defense Secretary Mattis, but losing. And he hates to lose. But what do you do about it? This is a president who doesn't have a clue what to do when it comes to international affairs. You guys at NBC reported that in July he had a meeting with his advisors about Afghanistan where he just wanted to sack the top general, even though it's not the top general's fault. And he even compared the situation in Afghanistan to a restaurant in New York that he used to visit in the 1980s. So that's how he sees the rest of the world. This is the guy who's the great deal maker. I wish he would actually do what a lot of experts have said over the years, which is try and find a deal, some form of grand bargain with the more realistic, less crazy parts of the Taliban, and get out of there. Don't send more troops to die in what is basically an unwinnable war.
That's what we've come down to, the less crazy parts of the Taliban. General, in a great article that Mehdi wrote, he quotes from Henry Kissinger saying, the conventional army loses if it does not win. The guerrilla wins if he does not lose. Do you share Mehdi's skepticism about the ability to win a war in Afghanistan?
Well, I thought that was perceptive in his part and also entertaining. But look, here's the problem. What are U.S. national security interests going forward? What are the objectives that President Trump will or will not articulate tonight? And then the least important thing is probably the tactical measures we try and get to. 4,000 troops clearly won't make a hill of beans difference. Having a viceroy for the region may probably help. The problem is the Afghan nation isn't going to have a unitary federal state under the rule of law in the coming 25 to 50 years. However, if we withdraw at this point, it implodes, It involves certainly Pakistan, which is acting quite logically, by the way. They don't want chaos in their rear area. Pakistan is not the central problem for Afghanistan. It's tribal factions murdering each other after a brutal civil war. So I don't think this president, or the last two, can get out. I think we're going to hedge our bets. We're going to cope. We don't want to see a giant, terrible disaster in the area. And so we're going to put some more resources in there and try and get through it.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.